Hey everybody, DK here with Mr. V Amps. That's the RTL Model 1. It's got a cabinet. It's a rustic looking cabinet, and that was a scratch build. I had some weird ideas I wanted to try. Almost all small amplifiers that I listen to sound like little wimpy small amplifiers. In the process of testing this, I used my shop speaker, which was built in sort of the same vein. My shop speakers and my cabinets and things that I used to build were built with almost a hi-fi principle in mind. The idea is that the cabinet itself had to not resonate, and the speaker board here is actually mounted from the back, and usually my cabinets are usually closed back to enhance bass and just really give me something to work with. This one being a tube amp, of course, has to be an open back, but it's a slotted back, I guess, which is, in looking, it's actually similar to the way that Dumble did his cabinets, even though I wasn't really thinking that until after I finished and looked at it and said, oh boy, okay. So anyway, the RTL Model 1 is an extremely responsive amp to input and to playing style. So you can get it to sound really nice and sweet, and then all you have to do is hammer on the strings or turn up your guitar and it'll growl like a wild animal. So So, you know, just to give you an idea, that we're at 20-some% volume, and depending on the input of your guitar, if you have a low input guitar like a Rickenbacker, you're probably good to about 50% on the volume knob, and then at that point it's going to sort of become your crunch knob. This unit is a series filament amplifier, and I'll probably do a little series on series filament amplifiers, as I'm actually making a series of series filament amplifiers. This one being the RTL-1. There's already a design in the works for the RTL 1.1, which is going to have a separate gain and master volume, so we can drive the heck out of it, and I'm debating whether I want to put a tone knob on it or not. This thing sounds great. I love this thing. And then I have an RTL-2, which is a 60s model. This one is actually built completely with no power transformer whatsoever, just like the originals in the 50s were. The production model, there's been a few revisions to the production model. The production model will have an isolation transformer, not because it makes the amp that much safer, but in the case that your house was wired by Mr. Sparky and your plugs are reversed, hot and common, then it becomes a safety and a functionality thing that you really just won't have to worry about it. It'll make the point moot. So, so if you're going to tour around with an amp, you know, that would solve the problem. Really a cool studio amp. I like the way it turned out. The cabinet for it is a little rustic. I'm debating the revisions I want to do on that, but I'll be glad to show you the back in just a second. But if you just dime your volume on your guitar, I mean, it just responds. I have no idea if the camera can hear that, but that does not sound like a single 8-inch speaker. So we'll dismount the camera from the tripod and take a little aerial tour of the rest of the RTL. There's not a lot to explain. I mean, the control panel has guitar, loud, and on or not on. So there's not much there to do. But I found anything I put in front of this, whether it's the reverb units, the echo units, all of that stuff, it just sounds great. It just gives a really nice, warm, kind of almost a little bassy response, but that's easily dialed back. If you actually dial back your guitar's input, it rolls the bass right off. And then, of course, if you have a treble-y guitar, which today I do not, this is a very hot Gibson guitar. Hot being by the pickups, not because I stole it. You can, obviously you can roll back your tone knob to reduce treble if you're using a single coil guitar like the Ovation that I used a few times as a shop guitar, or a Rickenbacker. So we'll dismount this from the tripod and take a look around, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, now just remember you are looking at a prototype here. You're looking at a proof of concept. So don't be disrespectful to my labeling. The final finished product will obviously be much nicer labeling than this, but we have our input jack labeled guitar, our volume knob labeled loud, the RTL by Mr. V, RTL-1 by Mr. V, and on and not on respectively. Our speaker cover is actually like a hi-fi speaker mesh. Looks great, I think. It fits the mood, considering this is a hi-fi-ish type cabinet. And our cabinet is just made of generic pine, just a oil finish with a wax coat on it. Very rustic, very simple. There's our handle. Looks a little relict. I left all the tool marks in there just to kind of make it look relict and vintage. It needs to sort of pay homage to its 1940s radios that the circuit's based on. And we'll take a look around back, and we can see our slotted back, and we have some lovely glowing vacuum tubes in there that have no problem ventilating. And now, just because we can, I backed the camera up away from it. I have no idea if it's going to sound fuzzy, but if it's in the video, apparently it didn't sound too fuzzy. We're going to crank it up and play some rock and roll. Or punk rock, actually. So anyway, that's the RTL Model 1. It's a little amp. It sounds big. It sounds loud. And quite frankly, with that thick of a cabinet, that thing's going to hold up, man. Just don't drop it for the sake of the tubes. The rest of the stuff should survive just fine. Alright, thanks for watching. Contact me if you're interested in stuff like this. Whether you want to ask me a question, you want to build your own stuff, you want me to build you something or whatever, you can find me at mrvamps.com, or you can just reply in the comments section or send me an email or whatever. Thanks. This is DK with Mr. V Amps. Have a good day.